Design. What is a design process? What is design thinking? That's what today is all about. We are going to introduce this today. So, I'm going to start by shrinking my head in this webcam. So, design thinking. It's being actively engaged in your world. It's understanding how things work and knowing you can improve your world around you. It's understanding and accepting that your environment is not static or stuck. You can manipulate or change things to make your life better. We do this with a design process. I'm going to introduce this design process in its fullness and then get into detail about the first step, which you'll be engaging in today. Now, a design process is repeatable. It's a series of structured steps to align your mind and your actions to get the best result you can get. Now, it's called iterative. That just means repeatable process, because once you finish, you're not done. There's a reason why technology improves and Apple is selling iPhone Xs now. It's not that the first iPhone was terrible. It worked just fine. But they made improvements by repeating their design process. Let's look at what's done at each step. Step 1. Ask. This is where you're going to understand your audience. Know who you're designing this technology for. If you don't know who you're making it for, it's not going to be helpful to them. This is where you understand, you ask your questions, and you identify the things it has to do and the things that you're limited by. Once you're done fully understanding everything that's going into this technology that you're designing, then you sketch. This is where you start to plan. You're taking measurements. You're coming up with different possible ideas. You make 3D models or drawings to help guide you as you get into your last phase. The last part of this, especially with a team, you have to be able to coherently present what you've thought of. The last step is to prototype and make. Prototypes are the first working version of a design. It doesn't have to look like a finished project, but it needs to function like the finished project. In the make step, you are going to make whatever you have designed in step 2, and then you're going to test it to see if it works. Because if it doesn't fulfill your needs, it's useless. You're trying to solve problems, which come from needs and wants. Once you finish testing your prototype, you then go back to the beginning and improve again. You're able to find failure and see how you could improve your already successful design. Now let's get into step 1. Knowing your audience, asking questions, identifying our pain points or criteria, and identifying our constraints or limitations. These are just words used by professionals in the field. It's a vocab word. You're going to learn it. So in step 1, we're really trying to understand the person or the company or the group that we're trying to solve a problem for. What is their situation? Why do they need a new technology? Who are you designing this for? What are their needs and their wants? You can't design things for yourself all the time. And people come with different backgrounds, different needs, different situations that we have to understand before we can design a solution. Once you know your audience, that's when you ask questions. You can take interviews, take pictures, videos of the space you need to design for. You can measure, maybe if it's an audio thing, you can measure to see where gaps would be or something that they're trying to fill. This is where you collect all the information you can. You research so that you have all the information you need to make something. Here are some example questions. What do they want it to do? What does it need to do? Because they don't always know. What space do they have for this? What do they need it to do? Why do they need this technology? Once you ask these questions, you have a better sense of what you're going to need to build for. Number 3, identify pain points or criteria. Whenever you have a piece of technology, it may function fine, but there may be qualities you want improved upon. So what should our finished technology do is a very important question. You want to define measurable qualities that you can then test your prototype for. And it really should be based on the user's needs. For instance, if I was designing a shovel that I wanted to have more comfortable for the user, I would then identify how much weight should the head of the shovel need to be able to support without breaking. How many times can somebody use the shovel without their hand hurting? I'm trying to identify specific things that I can measure later. Once I've listed everything that this technology needs to do, then I move on to my constraints. Constraints are your limitations. I wish I had all the money in the world. I wish I had access to every tool, lasers, photon cannons, blasters, fission, fusion, all this stuff, but I don't. And that's because we live in a normal world. We are people with limitations. These limitations boil down to pretty much this list of 6 things. There's one additional one. I'm not getting into that. So number 1, what materials do I have for this? What do I have access to? What tools do I have for this? Maybe I have access to metal, but I don't have the tools that I need to bend it or cut it or boil it down and make a mold out of it. So what tools do I have? How large is my team? How many people do I have that can give me help with their muscle power or their ideas? How much knowledge do I have? What mathematical concepts? What mechanisms do I know? What scientific concepts do I have in my head? This is something that we can't list very much, but having knowledge, which is just practiced information, will help you as you design. How much money do I have? What's my budget? Let's say that I'm designing something for someone who has $100, and I come up with a prototype that would cost them $100,000. Are they going to be happy? No, they're not going to buy my product. That's why I have to consider how much money do I have and how much money will they have? Will it fit their needs? How much time? The great common denominator. If you have a limited amount of time, you aren't able to come up with maybe the best solution. If you have only 15 minutes to write an essay, is the quality going to be very good? No. You don't have time to brainstorm. You don't have time to proofread or edit your response. Instead, you have to get a solution or your paper finished in that 15-minute time constraint. So that's very important. That is the end of my bit for today. What you are going to be doing is the first step of our design process. I have an assignment posted in Google Classroom where I'm going to pose or give these questions to you because you are going to be redesigning our cell phone stand. Happy making!